All right, people, if you're like me, you have a 2022 or prior to 2023 Indian Chief, and you're wondering, can I put any of the new Sport Chief parts on my Indian Chief? So let's find out. Starting off here at the rear of the bike, we got the new Fox suspension. This does come in two flavors. You got this version, which raises the bike up an extra inch, giving you 4 inches of suspension travel, and there's another one that actually allows you to adjust more of the preload and compression of the springs. I don't think the majority of us are going to need that feature, so I would recommend you just to get the 4 inches, because that's what the majority of people want. They want that extra inch. Should be a direct replacement. Just raise the bike up just a tad, then that will allow you to slide these off without having any load on the rear wheel, and it should just be a direct replacement. So these fit. Raise the bike up, and also once you raise the bike up in the rear, it's going to change the front rake of the bike. So the front rake is, at least on the prior to 2023 models, it is 29 degrees. This is going to change the bike to 28 degrees, and also is going to give you an extra inch of lean angle. So let me take the corners a little bit faster. But what ends up happening is once you change the rake, it's going to allow this bike to turn in a lot faster. So you're going to get better handling, you're going to get it more suspension travel. So this mod, I think a lot of people are going to do this.
Yep. Scraping. Oh my God, I'm scraping the whole time. It's so hard to not scrape this thing.
This seat is probably the best seat I think Indian has ever come out with for Chief or Indian Scout, because we got this extra little bit of bolster right here. I'd imagine, I think it's like 3 inches, but what it does is as you're throttling down, especially when you put this thing in sport mode, it makes it where you don't fly off the back. It is very firm, or more firm rather. I prefer a firm seat. I think it holds you in really well. I would actually get this on my bike as well. So these two mods I can definitely see people doing. Something that you cannot see on either of these, behind this primary cover, Indian actually added a new clutch system. Once you downshift, the motor will automatically match the revs to the gearing. So if you downshift from like 4th down to 2nd, and basically it prevents the rear wheel from locking up. But the question is, can you put this, the components you can't see behind here, can you put this on 2022 Chiefs? And the answer is yes, but you will have to take this off. You will have to add the new clutch components, and you will need a new primary cover. I talked to the engineer about this. It can be done, but if you're not comfortable with motor work, you're probably going to want to pay somebody to do it, or you may just not even worry about it.
Oh shit.
So moving on to the front end, which is the star of this bike, this entire Sport Chief outside of the suspension, we got Brembo brakes, KYB forks from the Indian Challenger. We got new floating rotors, and we have a new rim. Now let me go ahead and tell you, if you want this front end, you're looking at about 4 to 5K, and I'm gonna tell you why. You will need a new wheel. You might say, well, Brandon, why can't I use the old wheel? Problem is, see that right there, the floating rotor, the mount points are different. On the Chief and the Chief then, they had a similar rotor setup. Actually, they used the exact same rotor, but it was less floating. So they mounted more inward to the rotor versus outward. So you have less rotor surface, and they mount further out. So you're gonna need a new wheel to accommodate this for both sides. And also you're gonna need new rotors. The axle looks to be the same. The pinch bolts looks possibly to be the same. And also you're gonna need those new brakes. You're gonna need both sides, and you're gonna need new brake pads, because you don't wanna use old brake pads from a non-monoblock brake setup. And also you're gonna need these new forks. These new forks, just to give you an idea, when I replaced the forks or bought forks for my 2022 Indian Chief, they were $1,200 a piece. So I paid $2,500 for just 2 forks. So I would imagine these inverted forks, they're gonna be very similar. Also, keep in mind, new brakes. More than likely, you're gonna need new brake lines. So previously, like I said, we had one brake line coming up from the left side, but now there's a T-fitting in here that you're gonna need to make sure that the other brake line can connect to, and also that ABS line runs all the way back down to the ABS module, and also a line goes to that brake pressure switch. So you're gonna have to make sure that you have everything you need to do this. So I would definitely factor in the cost of getting a new brake line. Also, I know you probably don't know and you probably can't tell the difference, but this is not the fender from the 2022 models. The fender right here, this length right here, is actually a little bit longer to accommodate the new forks. More than likely, somebody will come out with an aftermarket piece that will allow you to probably bridge in the 2022 Chiefs to connect to this. But right now, if you were to do this and you didn't have this bridge that would connect the old fender to this, you will need a new fender. Factor in the cost of this. This thing's like $900. So again, the recap: you're gonna need a new wheel, you're gonna need new rotors, you're gonna need the forks, you're gonna need 2 new brakes, brake calipers, monoblocks, the Brembos. You're gonna need new brake pads. You're gonna need new brake lines. All right, then, being that these forks are 43 millimeters compared to the 46 that are on the previous Chiefs, let's move over to the black one. The exact same setup, I just want to move to the black. You are going to need new triples. You're gonna need upper and lower, because again, 43 millimeters versus 46 on the 2022 Chiefs, it's just not gonna work. These are smaller, so factor in another maybe $700, $350 for upper and lower. I don't know if I'm going to do this, but I'm already dealing with my front end as well. So for those of you that want to do it, I don't know if you can even do this in stages, because if you wanted to do just the forks at one point and do the upper and the lower, maybe you can do one brake line, the left brake caliper, and then add the right one in later. I don't know if that will work or not, but it could be an option for some of you, including myself. But yes, you're going to need new upper and lower. Moving on to the fairing. This is actually, both of these are the 6.5-inch fairings. The fairing should be a direct replacement or a direct fitment to the 2022 Chiefs. There is a bracket system behind here that you will need. So we got 6-inch risers here, and on this one also we have 6-inch risers. The riser, top riser piece right here, all this comes as one unit. And also these bars, these are not the same bars from the 2022 Chiefs. These allow you to basically corner better, so these are not the same. You're gonna need these as well. Now, I don't have the 10 inches here with me right now, but keep in mind, if you're gonna go 10 inches, you will need a new cable harness. This cable harness is not going to work on the 10 inches. Some of you are riding bobbers with mini apes. I don't know if the mini ape wire harness is going to be long enough, or that handlebar setup is going to be long enough, but definitely factor in getting a new wiring harness. It all comes down, in my opinion, to how much money do you want to spend to get your Chiefs to look like this, right? Or the various pieces. So again, what I think a lot of people are going to do, they're going to take the suspension, because the majority of us don't need the extra rebound and compression settings. They're going to get the seat, they're going to do the risers, and they're probably going to do the windscreen, and that's going to be it. Because the rest of this, man, this front end, you're looking at probably $5,000 in just the front end. Between the wheel I know is probably going to be like $800. Rotors are probably $200 a piece. Then you got the Brembos, they're probably going to be like $250 a piece. Then you got the brakes, the brake pads, then you got the brake lines. These forks are probably going to be about $2,500 together. Then you got this. That's going to be easily another $900. So you're looking at like $5,000 just to get this thing. Oh, not to mention upper and lower triple tree. So again, it's doable, but again, it really just depends how much money are you willing to spend. And that's the question you're going to have to ask yourself. But let me know down below, would you just do the full thing, or would you do this in pieces, like fairing, seat, or if you don't have an aftermarket seat already, or some of you will have aftermarket suspension. I remember I took my stock springs off of my Chief and swapped them to Drag Specialty dampers. So the damper on the inside was Drag Specialty, but the springs were Indian, because those springs that come on those shocks, on those dampers, they're really flimsy basically. So I put the stock Indian springs on there to give it a stiffer ride. Worked great. So it's really up to you guys what you're gonna do, but those are your options. And yeah, you can do it. It's just you gotta spend some money. And of course, I see a lot of you doing the riser upgrade. because these, I will tell you, they look really good. Really premium look, really premium feel, and it definitely changes the character of the bike. And honestly, I just really like the way it looks, especially behind this fairing. So I know a lot of people are going to be doing this upgrade as well if they haven't done some aftermarket option as well. It looks really cool. And also this ride command screen, I love the way it's mounted here. I actually prefer it to be mounted here now compared to where it was. So yeah, the good thing is, man, in the Indian market now, man, we're starting to get options. So I think that's really neat. And I think a lot of you are going to appreciate the little bits that this platform now has. So let's talk about it down below. Let me know what you would do if you have a Chief and you want to convert this thing over to, I guess, a Sport Chief with the various little parts. And let's have the conversation. So yeah, here's another video for you to watch. See you in the next one. Peace.